Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features the Uncanny X-Men issue 134, cover dated June 1980. Another classic cover by John Byrne and Terry Austin. Now this one is an homage to the cover of Uncanny X-Men 100 by Dave Cockrum, featuring this time the X-Men, the male members, versus the Hellfire Club, the male members. And we don't have Nightcrawler in the mix here, so we've got Cyclops versus Shaw, Wolverine versus Leyland, and Colossus versus Mastermind, aka Jason Wingard. And in between them, we have Jean Grey as the Hellfire Club's Black Queen under the control of Mastermind. And we have a beautiful rendition of the Phoenix Firebird effect in the background. There's a cover caption too. The Hellfire Club has transformed Phoenix into their Black Queen. Are the X-Men too late to save her or themselves? And down here between Jean's legs, Heroes and Hellfire. And notice the detail of the cover corner box where Phoenix's head is not included among those of the X-Men. I like the play of colors on this cover too, the red and the yellow, and the piece of blue on Jean's black white queen costume as well. Let's open this one up to the splash page. Once again, there are improbably and yet actually only 17 pages of story and art in this particular issue. Amazing what Claremont and Byrne fit into that tight page count. So the title of the story is Too Late, the Heroes, and that of course is foreboding in terms of the conclusion of the issue. The creator credits for A Tale in Triumph and Terror are by Chris Claremont and John Byrne, co-plotters. Claremont providing the words and Byrne the pencils. Terry Austin on inks, Tom Orzechowski on letters, and Bob Sharon replacing Glynis Oliver for this particular issue on colours. And one of the errors of Bob Sharon's colouring in this particular issue, not that there are many of them, is the colour of the floor here. It's established in the previous issue that this is a wooden floor, but he's colouring it as if it's some kind of strange pink marble. And that's it in terms of any criticisms I have. So the splash page is a catch-up really for what happened in the previous issue. The fact that it appeared that Cyclops had died, having been attacked and skewered by Jason Wingard in a sword fight on the astral plane. But in fact, Cyclops now painfully raises himself from the ground. And Nightcrawler here exclaims, "Storm, Colossus, look, Cyclops is alive." And Cyclops thinks, "The way I feel right now, Nightcrawler, I wish I wasn't. I tried to contact Jean through the psionic rapport she and I now share to free her from Mastermind's mental control, but he anticipated my move. We met and fought on the astral plane and I lost. He killed my astral form, and the shock of that psychic murder almost finished my physical body as well." So he wasn't quite killed, and Mastermind says to him, "I trust you've learned your lesson, Cyclops. Jean Grey belongs to the Hellfire Club." And here comes a classic Claremont phrase, body and soul, now and forever. And I like the acting in this particular splash page as well. We can see that Jean there is looking off to the side. Something has happened, and we shall learn what that is in the course of the story. Another great, every page is fantastic, but another great little sequence here. Byrne has been playing around with these kinds of visual transitions, and in this case it's not so much a transition as he's changing the perspective of the reader on the characters of the X-Men, and so we see them as they are prisoner of the Hellfire Club, and then how they normally appear in their heroic guises and in full costume, and then how Jean Grey is seeing them under Mastermind's control, and she sees them as if they look like three soldiers in George Washington's Continental Army and a turncoat slave in the case of Storm. And something I noted in my review of the previous issue was the way that Jean sees Storm actually changes the physiognomy of her face to give her a broader, flatter nose there, rather than in keeping with Storm's rather unique features for an African woman. And also, I like the little interpretation of what would Kurt look like if he was a regular human. And I like the little detail of the fact that the brim of Cyclops' colonial hat keeps his eyes in shadow. And then we get a look at Jean herself, and she always, in the Black Queen appearance, has a kind of a cocked eyebrow, a little bit of a snarl on her face, and a club beauty spot as well. Here's how she should normally look as Phoenix. And then we see the man who has warped her soul, and that is Mastermind, in his guise as Jason Wingard, and then as he really looks. And it's quite the transformation from a handsome man to what shall we say, except for a very unprepossessing, greasy-haired figure there with dark bags under his eyes. And here are the main trio now of the Hellfire Club: Sebastian Shaw, Harry Leyland, and Donald Pierce, who's not a mutant but rather a cyborg, and something important is going to be established about him in this issue 2, and that is the fact that he hates mutants, even though he's working with these two here in the Hellfire Club. There's Jason Wingard. He's delighted with himself, cock-a-hoop, toasting once again, drinking wine. Everything seems to be coming up roses for the Hellfire Club. But look at this. Jean has walked away, and she's walked to the window, and she's pulled back the curtains. And we're told, as the inner circle's cheers of victory echo through the room, a strangely somber Jean Grey slowly, deliberately looks from face to face, her gaze lingering on Wingard's, lingering far longer on Cyclops's. When at last she turns away, there is no mercy in her eyes. And that is a promise that will be kept towards the end of this issue. And outside, it's been established that there's a storm raging in New York City. Also, in the narrative captions, we learn elsewhere in the building, the great and wealthy and powerful of America, who comprise the Hellfire Club's membership, are celebrating the club's latest anniversary, unaware of the drama being played out in the room above their heads. And one of those guests, not a member of the Hellfire Club, is Senator Robert Kelly, and we'll see another cameo from him in this issue where he doesn't get any dialogue. While outside on the streets, New York reels under the onslaught of a brutal midwinter gale. Now that's an interesting little detail there, midwinter. So that reveals that the last time we had midwinter for the X-Men was issue 98, and the famous meeting of the characters in front of Rockefeller Center and the Christmas tree, and the Christmas Eve date of Jean Grey and Cyclops, and that was the night that the Sentinels attacked, and ultimately they all ended up in space, and Jean sacrificed her life to save the X-Men, and then bonded with the Phoenix Force and arose from Jamaica Bay, exclaiming, "Hear me, X-Men, I'm no longer the woman you once knew." So an entire year has passed, more or less, since those events, and they're going to be bookended in respect of the last page of this particular issue. Interesting to note. Also, the detail that the storm tunnels under New York City, under Manhattan, are filling up, and Wolverine sneakily exposed the wiring to the Hellfire Club mansion, just in case they might need a blackout later on in the night. So the water levels are rising, and that blackout is on the way, and that was established in the previous issue. Or sorry, actually in issue 132. And now we're into the story where Wolverine, speak of the devil, crashes through the wooden doors of the library room where the Hellfire Club are holding the X-Men prisoner. And I really like this running pose on Wolverine. So he managed to free himself from the beating that was administered to him downstairs by the Hellfire Club servants. And he introduces himself with a very amusing greeting. "Evening, folks. The name's Wolverine. You and me got business, and all the flunkies in creation ain't gonna keep me away." So classic Wolverine here. And Shaw, of course, he's irate. "Leyland, you unmitigated fool," he exclaims. "You swore to me that Wolverine drowned." So that's a callback to the end of issue 132. Wolverine did not drown, and he's been making his way through the Hellfire Club to come and rescue the X-Men. So Wingard here thinks this is an opportunity for him because he's got a rivalry for control of the Hellfire Club. So he thinks to himself with a very typical Claremontian exclamation, "Magnificent." That's one of Claremont's favorite exclamations for characters. And Wingard continues in his thoughts, this is my chance to finish Shaw as leader of the Inner Circle and then move in to take his place. So he directs the Black Queen to stop Wolverine, and she says in response, that, Jason, will be a pleasure. But she thinks privately, more of one than you can possibly imagine. So she lifts Wolverine back with her telekinesis, and Nightcrawler exclaims, Jean, don't. At the same moment, while all eyes are on Wolverine, Cyclops feels the lock on the back of the helmet that is keeping him from using his optic blasts open. That voice, he thinks, Jean's voice, her presence inside my mind. She's re-established our psionic rapport. I can hear her, feel her. She's so beautiful, shining like a star. She's broken Mastermind's hold on her, and now she's telekinetically freeing me as well. All I have to do is open my eyes. So he blasts the helmet off his face and onto the back of Donald Pierce's head. I like that. It's kind of comic. And then he uses his optic blast with some guidance from Jean to blow away the manacles that are holding the other X-Men prisoner. And he thinks to himself with concern, if I make even the slightest miscalculation, I could break someone's arms or worse, because those optic blasts are powerful. And then he launches one at Leyland and knocks him right out over the balcony here, down to where the party's taking place. So out the door and down to where the party's taking place. And then Jean says to Wolverine, go, Wolverine. And he says, Jeannie, you're working on the side of the angels after all. Nice, sneaky moves, lady. You're a woman after my own heart. And Jean says ominously, I know, I wish I wasn't. So then we have Cyclops looking down at Leyland on the ground, and he calls out to him, you owe me a rematch, bub, and I'm here to collect with interest. And then where do you go? Do you go over here? Because there's a slight criticism I could make here, where the balcony here kind of divides this panel, so you naturally go from here to here to here, and then you expect another panel down here, but this is where we go instead. Now, it's only the slightest of criticisms, and let's leave it at that. So Shaw here, he likes to take his shirt off when he's fighting, so he takes off his dressing gown and his scarf, and he says, never say die, Cyclops. We beat you X-Men once, we can do so again. Your vaunted optic blasts mean nothing to a man capable of absorbing all forms of kinetic energy. The harder you hit me with anything, the stronger I get. So that's how Shaw's mutant power works. But Cyclops is an expert battle tactician, and he has already thought out a means of tackling Shaw. Who said I was going to hit you, Shaw? So he blasts the floor. Happy landings, he exclaims. So that's good stuff from Cyclops. He is team leader, always for a reason. And this is kind of comical. We've got Pierce here calling after Shaw, looking down the hole in the floor. And then Colossus grabs him. You've problems enough of your own, he says. And then, of course, Pierce is a cyborg. And he boasts, you made a fatal mistake assaulting me in your human form, Colossus. With my cyborg limbs, I can bend steel in my bare hand. Smashing you to a pulp should be child's play. So that's a real hard kick into Colossus's jaw. Then he transforms into his living armored form, and Leyland is gone down the hole, with Nightcrawler and Storm going after him on Cyclops' orders. Armor up, he says to Colossus. Pierce is all yours. Storm, you and Nightcrawler go after Shaw. Leave Mastermind to me. So where is Mastermind? Well, Mastermind, he's a clever dick, and he's here thinking to himself in the background of all the cursed luck. Everything was going so well until I broke my own first law. I underestimated the X-Men. I let my ambition, my dislike of Shaw, my desire for his rank and position in the Inner Circle get the better of me. Let the others batter themselves senseless. For the moment, I think it best not to get involved. I'll simply create an illusion that I'm part of the wall and wait to see what develops. Who knows? I might yet emerge victorious. So he's going to hang around and see how things pan out, and if they prove an opportunity for him, he'll move in then at that point. Sneaky from Mastermind. What about Wolverine here? He's leaping off the balcony down towards Tubby. That's Harry Leyland. And then we're told desperately, instinctively, Harry Leyland lashes out with his mutant power, increasing Wolverine's mass geometrically as he falls. Too late, Leyland realizes that that's the last thing he should have done. And here in the background, we've got Senator Kelly. He does have a line there. It's a maniac. Call the police. Hurry. And there he is again. At that moment, in one of the many secret passages that honeycomb this venerable Manhattan townhouse, really like Claremont's diction there. It's very creative and what shall I say? Well, the word in my mind is piquant. I like his diction. So Shaw is running in a basement hallway. You see the stairs leading down to it there. Cyclops is a born leader, he thinks, and this is interesting from him. Sebastian Shaw is leader of the Hellfire Club for a reason, and he has admiration and respect for Cyclops and how he's behaved on this evening. As good as I expected. He found one openness, one flaw in our defenses, and in a matter of seconds he had us on the ropes. I like that, and I really like this thought that Claremont has given Shaw's admiration for Cyclops. I think it's great, but he had help, continues Shaw, and I have an uncomfortable feeling, I know from what source, Wingard's puppet, I fear, has cut her strings. If that's true, I pity the puppet master. So Shaw, very shrewd. He gets it. He has an inkling and he will be proved correct. And so Nightcrawler now attacks him. Storm says, I shouldn't hit you, Herr Shaw. That's fine with me, because Storm was beaten by Shaw in a previous issue, issue 132 to be precise. Anyone can punch Nightcrawler is going to clobber you in style, says Nightcrawler. And Storm is thinking, with a slight assist from Storm, my friend, for all Shaw's mutant strength, he's still only human. He's vulnerable to temperature shifts. So if I use my elemental powers to surround him with a field of extreme cold, a micro blizzard, I should be able to freeze the fight out of him. So she's thought better in terms of how to get the better of Shaw, given her defeat by him a couple of issues ago. And we're going to see how all of this pans out once we get past the advertisements here. And this is interesting. So, there's a battle going on in the Hellfire Club. Senator Robert Kelly, a US senator, is called for the police. And who else is there in New York City in the Marvel Universe except for the Avengers? And so the scene shifts to 4 blocks up the avenue, up Fifth Avenue, and it's the Beast, and he is on security detail. And he's reading a book here, and you can see that it's by Julian Jaynes, The Origin of Consciousness in the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind. So very light reading there for the Beast, and I like the little detail of him holding the book up to his face with his toes. Good book, he thinks. And comically can't wait to see the movie, and then the alarm goes off. But he has some interesting thoughts too, interesting theory too, though it's more up Professor Xavier's alley than mine. I ought to pay him and the X-Men a visit. So how long has it been since the Beast has featured in an X-Men comic? He continues thinking, it's funny, after all this time, there's still no one as close to me as the X-Men. I've lots of pals, but no friends. I belong here with the Avengers, and yet, and then goes the alarm. So the Beast, has pals with the Avengers, but no real friends. His friends, his surrogate family, are the X-Men and remain the X-Men. So the alarm has gone off. He gets up out of his seat. I like the detail there in Byrne's art of the dust cover coming loose from the book. The alarm, exclaims the Beast. It's our hookup to the NYPD. And then he thinks to himself, probably nothing, but checking it out sure beats talking myself through a scene of As the World Turns. Bummer. That's the spirit, McCoy. Hide your feelings behind a flip, devil-may-care facade. If you've become a loner, who's to blame? The others or you? Interesting characterization there from Claremont, of course, taking account of the transformation of the Beast's appearance and kind of implying that maybe that has been keeping him away from socializing with others. And then the report is there, police, APB, Hellfire Club reports attacked by group believed to be the X-Men. And Beast thinks to himself, oh no, that can't be the X-Men on a rampage. There has to be a reason. Avengers procedure says I should sound an alert, summon every member who's in town. But what then do we trash the X-Men? Like the screen tone there in the background by Terry Austin, the Beast turns away from the monitor and he's chosen to erase the tape, erase it. Hank McCoy comes to the decision and makes a final fateful choice. As he leaves, he doesn't look back. And then meanwhile, back at the Hellfire Club, we have... So what I like about this, before I get back to this, is the fact that there are other X-Men out there. I mean, Iceman is out there somewhere as well, but it's the Beast who's in New York City, and he's going to come to the aid of the X-Men, and they're going to need him in respect of what's coming next. In the series, the next 3 issues. But meanwhile, back in the Hellfire Club, we've got Pierce up against Colossus, and Pierce, with his enhanced cyborg strength, is holding Colossus down. I'm struggling with all my might, thinks Colossus, yet Pierce is forcing me back. He's leverage on my hands. He's hurting me. I've felt pain before and I've faced defeat, but I've never surrendered. And Pierce has exclaimed to Colossus, on your knees, you Bolshevik buffoon. So Colossus gets irate. You speak as though I was less than human, Pierce. I do not know you. I've never thought ill of you, threatened you, harmed you. Yet you would slay me for no other reason than that I am a mutant. And then Colossus smashes Pierce's cyborg arm, his mechanical arm. I'm proud of who and what I am, little man. My humanity is not in the outward form I wear, but in my soul. Can you say the same, he asks rhetorically. And then Pierce responds with the butt of his wrecked arm. Yes, curse you, I may be only half a man, but I'm more human than you'll ever be, freak. So this is our first insight into the fact that Pierce has a hatred for mutants, and that will be core to his characterization going into the future. So Colossus is blinded by the electrical arc, takes a few seconds for him to recover, and then Pierce is gone. So he's on the run now. And down in the basement, elsewhere in the Hellfire Club mansion, Nightcrawler is overconfident here, juggling Shaw with his feet, and Shaw grabs his ankle. I hate to burst your bubble, Nightcrawler, he says, but your swashbuckling overconfidence will be the death of you. Just because I have superpowers doesn't mean I've forgotten how to fight. But then Storm arrives and attacks Shaw with the cold field. I'm weakening by the second, almost no time left to act. So he throws Nightcrawler into Storm. She's down but not out. And this blasted cold has left me too drained, too weak to finish her. My body feels as if it's been turned to ice. I want to stay to fight, but I dare not. So Pierce escapes through one of those secret tunnels again, and who's coming down it except for... Shaw does, and who's coming down it except for Pierce? We're beaten, man, beaten, he exclaims. I know, says Shaw. How can you be so calm, asks Pierce. He's panicked. And Shaw says, very calmly, I've lost battles before, Pierce. The war goes on. We'll learn from tonight's mistakes, and next time the outcome will be different. Come along, there is much to do. So Shaw, not at all cowed by the defeat. He's determined to continue waging the war, his war for power and the knowledge to genetically develop mutants. That's what he revealed in the previous issue. Upstairs, Cyclops is there trying to calm the partygoers and have a, how would I put it, like an ordered evacuation. Cyclops is doing his best to calm the party guests, wondering why his words only seem to make things worse. And that's because Mastermind is casting an illusion in order to make it seem as if Cyclops is attacking the guests. And again, this is interesting from Byrne, where we have probably here, it looks to me like Terry Austin might have photocopied. He might have Xeroxed this panel to here and then just changed the details of Cyclops' lowered head, posture there, and the optic blast. And this here again is Senator Robert Kelly, the cameo by him. And at that moment, remember this was set up in issue 132 by Wolverine, sneaky Wolverine. The storm sewer water reaches a certain bank of exposed cables and the lights go out. So Cyclops thinks, that's all we need now. We'll have a real panic on our hands, and if Shaw's goons are responsible, we could be sitting ducks for a counterattack. So this is funny to me. Wolverine thought it would be handy to have something like this happen at a random moment. And Cyclops, when it does happen, he doesn't know anything about Wolverine's involvement in it. He sees it as an additional difficulty now. So that's kind of funny, the difference between these two characters. But speak of the devil once again, Wolverine lights a match. Almost seems like he lights it off of Cyclops' head there. Psych, we got to stop meeting like this. Cripes, Cyclops thinks to himself. Now, he doesn't exclaim aloud, and I like that little detail too, but he is taken by surprise. He startled me. I was on guard, expecting trouble, yet he crept right up behind me without my noticing, and then he says aloud, Wolverine, you look okay, what's happened to Leyland? And then Wolverine's response, don't ask. And again, this is interesting from Claremont. He has Cyclops think, if that means what I think it does, Professor X is going to have a fit. So the implication is that Wolverine's killed Leyland. But the thought is that Professor X will have a fit, not Cyclops. And then he says, it's orders, battle orders, find Nightcrawler and Storm, we're getting out of here. So they're going to retreat, a tactical retreat. I like the Dutch angle here from Byrne in the art. And Wolverine, is he going to protest? Is he going to say, let's keep attacking these guys? Because that's Wolverine's character. Too bad, he says. I hate leaving a fight half finished, but you're the boss. Because Wolverine has newfound respect for Cyclops since the Proteus saga. And then we pick up in the dark, and it's appropriate that this is all taking place in the dark, with the Black Queen and her puppeteer, Jason Wyngarde. But one thing I want to observe before that is who was a friend of John Byrne's at this time, early 1980, and working on another comic at Marvel, except for Frank Miller. And I do see a little bit of Frank Miller, his influence in the spotting of blacks, the lighting here in this panel in particular. So Byrne obviously looking at his friend's work in the time period, and young and competitive at the time, and learning from Miller, I would say. But back into the story, there's Jean, her eyes and the lower part of her face in shadow. Jean Grey is terrified, more afraid now than she's ever been, because she knows what is happening to her and she cannot stop it. Wyngarde is unaware. The Hellfire Club did its best and it wasn't good enough. I've lost my telepathic tap on Jean's mind. That means she must have broken my control. But how? I anticipated every contingency. And then Jean reveals herself. You made a mistake, Jason. You slew the man I loved before my eyes. Instead of severing my last connection with the X-Men, that acted like a bucket of ice water in my face. Instead of enslaving me forever, you shocked me awake. You set me free. Too late. So, could Wyngarde have been so stupid? He doesn't think so. No, he exclaims, I compensated for that reaction. My power should have. And then she responds, and again, she's mostly in silhouette here, just her eyes shining, and there is a sinister light energy playing around her, behind her. Your power is nothing, she exclaims. Let's turn the page. This is really, really great tension here. You want to get past these ads. Nobody's reading these ads. They're reading the comic, right? You, she exclaims, do you have any idea what you've done, what forces you've set in motion? And then she grabs him with a telekinetic manifestation of the Phoenix Bird's talon. You came to me when I was vulnerable, she says. You filled the emotional void within me. You made me trust you, perhaps even love you, and all the while you were using me. So Wyngarde protests, Jean, no more, I beg you, you're killing me. And she says, I intend to do a lot worse than that, mastermind. But first, I want to know how you reached into my mind. You're an illusionist, not a telepath. And this is a question that's come up before, so he reveals the answer. Mind tap mechanism. White Queen's design allowed me to project illusions directly into your mind, as well as monitor your thoughts. So, I don't know, this is a contrivance. We need it for everything to have happened to this point. but it's a little bit too easy how he got into her mind. A mind tap mechanism. I mean, like, how commonly available are those? Or, might they be available in the Marvel universe? But in any case, let's accept it and continue. Jean grabs it from out of his jacket pocket. Use a telepath to ensnare a telepath. Ingenious. This device enabled you to tailor your illusion to fit my most private fantasies, the repressed dark side of my soul. You gave me what I secretly wanted, and you used that to destroy me. So this is really interesting characterization here from Claremont and Byrne. This is Jason Wyngarde, mastermind, unleashing something that he couldn't have been prepared for. It's only fair that I return the compliment, she says. Love the lighting on her face there. Through me you sought power. Very well then, I'll grant your wish. I'll give you power, Jason Wyngarde, such as no living being has dreamed of. And this is a fantastic sequence by Byrne and Austin here, where we zero in on Wyngarde's eye, and we see the cosmos in it, and we see a manifestation of his body warped with the universe in the background. And in Claremont's third-person narration, we're told, at Jean's touch, his mind expands at the speed of thought, racing instantly from one side of reality to the other, through all the infinite reaches of space and time. In the blink of an eye, Mastermind finds himself in touch with the universe, his brain flooded with all the myriad absolute contradictory truths of existence. He screams, unable to cope. He runs, unable to escape. He drowns. He is, after all, only human, a man of limited awareness, limited power, limited ability, transformed in a twinkling into a god. So this is the territory usually of Jim Starlin, certainly the Jim Starlin of the 70s and again in the 90s at Marvel. And Claremont and Byrne doing an excellent version of Starlin cosmic stuff in this sequence. And then we're back with Wyngarde's eye, except it's now Mastermind's eye. Some people can handle the experience, some people can't. We see the tears coming from his eye, and he looks completely mind-wiped. Enjoy your trip, Jason, says Jean. You won't be coming back. In a way, I envy you. You're at peace. So it's really dark moment here. She's mind-wiped him and driven him mad. Given him what he wanted, and he's been driven mad with it. It's the kind of thing you get in Greek tragedy, and I like the shadow there looming over the wall behind Mastermind. And then she walks calmly away. Phoenix doesn't know the meaning of the word she thinks in terms of peace. The obsidian flames burn brighter within her, the narrator declares, and in the distance she hears music, a symphony of power, long sought and well remembered. Transfixed by an unhuman joy, her burning soul spreads its wings and soars towards a destiny that will no longer be denied. And here comes Cyclops calling out her name, and of course concerned that she be all right. The psionic rapport re-established. So he asks her, I've been searching all over for you. Are you all right? And she says, Scott, aye. She stumbles, and Cyclops recognizes instantly. And he thinks to himself, something's wrong. She's damping down the psychic rapport we share, hiding from me. And then he says aloud, Mastermind was up here, is he? Still controlling me? She responds, no, I took care of him. But Cyclops doesn't ask any more about that. Instead, he's all focused on her. What's the matter, Jean? Talk to me, let me help. And she thinks, you can't help me, my love. No one can. So he asks her to wait, but no. She runs along the corridor. It's she who is ordering the X-Men. She says to Wolverine here when he asks, like, what now? She's the one who responds. We run for it, short stuff. I'm receiving multiple mental impressions. The police are closing in on this building, and they mean to arrest the X-Men. If they capture us, you can bet Shaw and the Hellfire Club will make any criminal charges stick. So let's scoot. This is something I've been meaning to observe for a while. John Byrne's device of the full horizontal panel, where you get all the figures on the same horizon line, he uses it really well throughout the run, and always very detailed. And so you can see exactly where everyone is in relation to each other. And then Shaw's watching from an upper story, looking out the window, seeing the X-Men fleeing on the street. I like the detail of the raindrops pelting on the window panes. And he thinks to himself, this moment is yours, X-Men. Enjoy it while you can, because before I'm finished, you'll be known throughout the land, throughout the world, as public enemy number one. So this is Claremont leaning into the X-Men, going to be differentiated from the likes of the Avengers and the Fantastic Four, no longer seen as superheroes in the Marvel Universe, but rather suspicious and not trusted outlaw figures. Here they are in Central Park, the Central Park Reservoir. Cyclops is worried. Why won't Jean let me reach her, he thinks, on any level? What is she afraid of? Nothing much I can do about it now, at least, until we're safely on our way. Once we're airborne, though, and the pressure's off, then maybe she'll talk to me. So he touches a control stud on his wristwatch, and up comes their Skycraft. And I was intrigued about this, and I looked into it, and this Skycraft was something the X-Men stole from Larry Trask's Sentinel base way back in X-Men issue 60. That's Uncanny X-Men issue 60 by Roy Thomas and Neil Adams. So they've had it for that long. And it's important to note how long they've had it because of what happens on the next page. So Cyclops is there thinking, I wonder if I'm out of my depth this time with Jean. I love her. I know she's hurting badly deep inside. I want to help her, but I don't know how. All my skill as leader of the X-Men, all the power of my optic beams aren't worth a blasted thing. So they run aboard the Skycraft. He continues thinking, I think the sooner I get Jean to Professor X, the better. We left him in New Mexico at Angel's Mountaintop Chalet. If I firewall the throttles, this crate should be there in a couple of hours. And Storm and Colossus know something's up. Nightcrawler's there helping Cyclops with the Skycraft. Aurora, what troubles Scott, he whispers. He seems so driven all of a sudden, like a man possessed. And Storm replies, I know, Peter. We're all alive, unhurt, free. You think that would make him happy. And of course, something else to note as well is if Jean is free of Mastermind's control, which he is, everybody else might be wondering how come she hasn't transformed telekinetically into her Phoenix costume. Why not back in the Phoenix costume? Why still wearing that of the Black Queen? Storm responds to Colossus's question about Cyclops. I know, Peter, we're all alive, unhurt, free. You think that would make him happy. And Jean thinks, oh, Scott, your mind's an open book to me. I know your feelings, your thoughts, what you're trying to do, but it's too late, my darling, for me, for us, for everything. So the craft launches up into the sky, and Wolverine looks out the window and sees the NYPD arriving and says, we ought to be flattered. Looks like they rounded up an army to take us on, and that's the cue for a very disturbing response from Jean. Against an army, Wolverine, you would have at least a hope of survival. Against me, you have none. So everybody turns around. We get their reactions. We see the looks on their faces. They're in shock. Gods of the earth and air, exclaims Storm. Wolverine is baffled. Genie and Cyclops there. What? Oh no, no, he exclaims. Let's turn the page. And this is a famous page turn. And notice it is a page turn. Page 17 of the story. Imagine that. Only page 17 and everything that's happened. Here we go. Get past bullpen bulletins. And there we go. Hear me, X-Men. No longer am I the woman you knew. I'm fire and life now. I'm fire and life incarnate. Now and forever. I'm Phoenix. And then boom. The Skycraft exploded. And this, of course, a callback to issue 101 and Jean's emergence from Jamaica Bay as Phoenix. And the words she used, it echoes her speech in issue 101. Hear me, X-Men, no longer am I the woman you knew. But this is not the Phoenix costume we've seen before. Instead, we have the dark red and gold here. This is a different Phoenix. I am Phoenix, but next, Dark Phoenix. Stunning stuff, like seminal stuff. Simply one of the most important superhero comics there's ever been, the Dark Phoenix saga storyline, and this an extremely pivotal moment. And now we're into the next 3-issue arc of the Dark Phoenix saga. We've got 3 letters here, and what I always find amusing from this time period is that Marvel would run letters from correspondents who were unhappy about this, that, and the other, and arguing with the creators, and then Claremont here is the one writing the replies. Yeah, there you go. I just do want to take a little quick look at Bullpel, the checklist here, the Mighty Marvel checklist. Some people like to look at these hostess advertisements as well. You see there's an advertisement for Moon Knight. Let's see what's happening here with main titles. Captain America 246, and let's see, Incredible Hulk 248. Other major ones, Avengers. It's only issue 196 there. What else is there? Where's Spider-Man? Let me see here. Spider-Woman. Amazing Spider-Man 205. So that just gives you a sense where this is coming out in respect of the other Marvel titles. Let me just see. Where's Daredevil there? Trying to find it now. Hopefully it won't hide from me. Let's see. Oh, maybe it's not in it because Daredevil was published bi-monthly around this time period. So unless it's staring me in the face there and I just don't see it, which I've gone through this a couple of times now, so I don't think it's there, and I think it's because it's bi-monthly. So it'll be in the next one, I would say. And there you go. I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on the Uncanny X-Men issue 134. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments section. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like and share the video. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.